Hello, everyone, and welcome to Big Sam's Long Balls podcast with me, Dan. Now, today we're going to be talking about Leicester City as they crashed to yet another defeat, a huge defeat, a humbling defeat away at Tottenham Hotspur. They lost 6-2. They remain rock bottom of the Premier League as we go into the first international break of the season. They are rock bottom with just 1 point from their first 7 games this season. Dark times for Leicester City, add into the fact that players left, such as Kasper Schmeichel over the summer, and no one really was brought in, whether it was a lack of funds, a lack of ambition, uh, you know, a breakdown in a relationship between ownership and Brendan Rodgers. Only they will know. But either way, you add in all of these factors, a lack of money, a lack of signings, a terrible start to the season, really the worst start that Leicester fans would have wanted to see. We are now heading into that international break, and it's kind of a bit of a death sentence at times, this period for managers. Usually, if you're out of form or if your teams are playing poorly, bad run of results, this is usually the kiss of death for a lot of football managers. So it'll be very, very interesting to see over these next few weeks what happens at Leicester City. I know that Brendan Rodgers has a potentially high sort of high clause in the sense that if Leicester City sack him, they're going to have to pay him a hefty wage. So could that be a reason why Brendan Rodgers hasn't been sacked yet at Leicester City? If that's the case, then it just adds more problems to Leicester Football Club. And could we potentially be seeing, the one-time Premier League champions, the team that I think a lot of football fans and rival fans really looked on with envy over the last number of years? A, them winning the Premier League, but B, that their model. It was a model that people really wanted to replicate. The signing players like Mahrez and N'Golo Kante and etc. etc. They were the club. Leicester City were the club to replicate. But now, this moment in time, they are only going one way, and that is down to the Championship. Hard to believe, and look, we are still pretty early on into the season, but things massively, massively need to change at Leicester City. Personally, I think the thing that needs to change is the manager, and we will talk about that in this video because I do feel that Brendan Rodgers has a bit of a history of this, not necessarily of relegating teams, but the way that Leicester City are playing is very, very similar, I think, as a Liverpool fan, to his final sort of season and a bit with us. We're just very, very similar trends. And it really, it was the writing was on the wall for months and months, realistically for a year before our owners got rid of him. So I hope that's not the case at Leicester City. I hope he's able to turn it around and get Leicester City firing back up the Premier League table. But it came unstuck against Antonio Conte's Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham, who are flying at this current moment in time, really looking like they're going to be fighting neck and neck with the likes of Arsenal and Manchester City for this Premier League title. And the return of Son, he couldn't have asked for a better cameo, could he? What, a hat-trick inside 15 or so minutes against Leicester City. So brilliant signs for Tottenham Hotspur, but it really does look like it could be coming towards the end for Brendan Rodgers and this Leicester City squad. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. We're going to be talking about Leicester City. So if you enjoy this video, then definitely give us a like, subscribe. That would be great. Help this channel grow. And if there are any other footballing topics that you want me or Chris to talk about over the next few days, some of the topics, maybe some of the games that have happened over the weekend, or we can talk about some of the international fixtures coming up, do let us know in the comment section down below. But we are going to be talking about Brendan Rodgers and Leicester City Football Club because, to me, it only really seems like it's going to end one way, and it's going to end with Leicester City having to pull the trigger and sacking Brendan Rodgers. And I think there is a name already out there. I think there is a manager who is available, who would come in, who would really fix these problems that we're seeing at Leicester. And no, I'm not talking about, Thomas Tuchel. Maybe you have to sort of lower your expectations a little bit. But for me, what about Sean Dyche? I know I can already feel maybe some Leicester fans will be like, no. We want to look above that. We want to get rid of Brendan Rodgers because we want to bring in a better manager. For me, stuff like that doesn't really matter. Managerial names, reputations, it's not about that. If you want to be a big club or if you want to remain your status as a big club, the name of the manager isn't important, but it has to be the correct decision. It has to be the right decision. And you look at where Leicester City are struggling right now defensively. They are conceding on average 3 goals a game, which is leading to Leicester. The only way that Leicester can win a game in the Premier League this season is if they score 4 goals. That's not going to happen. They may happen every now and then, but it's not going to happen week in, week out for Leicester City. That is the area where Leicester City are struggling at massively this season. This is an area that I think Brendan Rodgers has struggled with throughout his career. Look at Swansea. If you look at his times, especially at Liverpool, perhaps not so much at Celtic, but if we're being completely honest about the quality out in Scotland, it's not as competitive as it is here in the Premier League. It just simply isn't. So Celtic would never really go on a run of games that Leicester City have, or that he had at Liverpool, because the competition just simply isn't there. And when the going gets tough with Brendan Rodgers, we have seen past records, and I think we're seeing it now. His teams cannot defend. He has an inability. He could not go to Tottenham Hotspur in any world and go, we're going to sit deep, we're going to play for a 0-0 and try and hit him on the counter-attack, come away with a 1-0 victory. But at the very least, we're going to, we're going to come away with a 0-0 draw here, take the positives, move on. That's never going to happen with a Brendan Rodgers team. You're always going to be open. You're always going to play good football, to give him credit. You're always going to be able to score goals. And you look at this Leicester City team right now, they are scoring goals. They are creating chances. You look at James Maddison in particular, 10 goals and assists in his last 9 games. He's playing out of his skin. Somehow has been ignored for the England call-up, but that's another matter. But they have players, in attacking positions who can get goals, who can get assists, who can create chances. The area for Leicester City where they're struggling right now is defensively and defensive midfield. Brendan Rodgers, like I said, I think he has a reputation for this. I don't think he is the man to fix these problems. And actually, if you was to bring in someone like a Sean Dyche, yes, the worry is that maybe the football won't be as exciting. You look at some of the way that Burnley played, wasn't always brilliant, but he didn't have the quality, the caliber of player that Leicester City do have going forward. He didn't have a Jamie Vardy, he didn't have a James Maddison, he didn't have a Harvey Barnes, a Dewsbury Hall, Yuri Tillemans, so on and so on, or a Patson Daka, Ian Ache, Leicester do have good players. They have very, very talented, forward-thinking players. But we're not seeing the most of them because every single game, their defence are conceding 3, or every time they concede a free kick or a corner kick, they know it's going to go in. These are the areas where Sean Dyche thrives. He absolutely thrives. Leicester City won't be worrying about conceding goals from corner kicks under Sean Dyche. They'll be scoring goals from corner kicks, and they'll have that quality on the counter-attack with a Jamie Vardy, with a Daka, Maddison, and so on, as the players that I've already spoken about. I just feel that Sean Dyche coming in would do the world of good for Leicester City. I think it's a match made in heaven. The weaknesses that Leicester City have are his strengths as a manager. And I think that he would come in, there'd be no fear of relegation with him. I know Burnley got relegated last year, but I actually ironically think if they had kept him for those last few games, then Burnley would have stayed up. He's a very, very talented manager. There's no doubt about it. He might not always be easiest on the eye, the style of football, but again, the caliber of player at Leicester is higher than what he had at Burnley. So Sean Dyche might come in, and this might be something that he would be looking to improve upon as a football manager. But for me, Sean Dyche, if Leicester City are going to make that change, Sean Dyche has to be the man. And I think if you really look at their run of form, I'm going to just have a little look at their form at the start of the season. Start with a 2-2 draw at home to Brentford, a 4-2 defeat away at Arsenal, a 2-1 defeat at home to Southampton. They won in the EFL Cup against Stockport, but look, we're just going to focus on the Premier League. They lost to 10-man Chelsea. Losing to Chelsea at Stamford Bridge is no shame, but 10-man Chelsea. They lost at home 1-0 to Manchester United on deadline day. I remember watching that game. I think it was one of the worst games of football I've seen Leicester City play for a long time. They lost 5-2 away at Brighton. The game against Villa was postponed, and then they lost 6-2 away at Tottenham. Now, the 6-2 at Tottenham that's not what is going to get you sacked at Leicester City. That's not going to be the result that gets Brendan Rodgers sacked. But this culmination of results, it really just leads to him walking away from this football club. For me, you look at those results, not one clean sheet, not one clean sheet, I think, in any of them, apart from the Stockport game. Literally no clean sheets for Leicester City this season. Again, you look at that and you think Sean Dyche would come in and he would sort that out straight away. Goals aren't necessarily a problem for Leicester at this moment in time. I personally feel that it is time. It is time to pull the trigger. You can really look at the Leicester City squad. Look, goalkeeper is an issue. They let Kasper Schmeichel go. They promoted Danny Ward. Obviously, Danny Ward used to play for my team, Liverpool. He's a decent prospect when he was young. But but he's never gone on to that next level. I do feel that some of the criticism on Danny Ward is a little bit harsh. I think if you look at Leicester over the last year or so, every set piece, they look like they're going to concede. They're conceding chances left, right, and centre each single game, even when they had Kasper Schmeichel in goal. So it was bad for them last season defensively. But then you add into that fact that Leicester haven't really addressed that. I know they brought in a new set piece coach a week or so ago. It must have been a pretty awful game watching against Tottenham for him. So we'll see. We'll see if any improvements are made under him. But Leicester were making some of these mistakes last season with Schmeichel in goal. Then you add into the fact that they're still making these mistakes and they have a goalkeeper who realistically isn't as good as Schmeichel. Disaster is going to strike. So I do feel a little bit harsh with Danny Ward. I don't feel that everything is his fault. However, he isn't at the level of a Kasper Schmeichel, and Leicester are still conceding chances left, right, and centre. So it's only going to result in about conceding 3-4 goals a game. Defensively, looking at their squad right now, there was a real lack of options. Soyuncu stands out for me. When he first came to the Premier League, he looked the bee's knees, didn't he? He looked like he was going to be heading on to a Liverpool, a Chelsea, Manchester United. After a while, he looked like maybe Leicester City would be able to sell him for 80, 90 million. He's really dropped off his level over the last 18 months or so for whatever reason. And Leicester do need him to get back to his best. Johnny Evans, Faze at centre-back, Vestergaard, it's not brilliant, is it? It is poor. Amate, James Justin, I think is a talented player. But look, they obviously sold Fofana a few weeks ago. They didn't have enough time to go out and replace him. So maybe Leicester City are just thinking, if we can get to January, then we'll be able to spend some of this money. Look, they've got talent. I'm looking through their squad right now. Jamie Vardy will get you goals. I think Iheanacho will get you goals. Perez will work hard. Daka, I don't think has really performed at the level that I was expecting him to. I wanted him at Anfield a year ago. But I do think there are goals in there. James Maddison, like I said, 10 goals and assists in his last 9 games. He is your star player right now. Yuri Tillemans, for the moment that you've got him, is a good player. Harvey Barnes, Dewsbury Hall, and Diddy had a bit of a mare, didn't he? Really away at Tottenham. But for me, the problem lies in defensively and in goal. There is that real lack of quality, and you need to be more pragmatic. And Leicester aren't under Brendan Rodgers. He's never been a pragmatic manager. His primary focus has been style of play. Possession-based football, creating chances left, right, and centre. And while that's great, when you're in a bad run of form and when you just need to be able to dig out results, if Leicester City had gone away to Tottenham Hotspur at the weekend and pulled out a 0-0 or a 1-1 or something like that, would Leicester fans be moaning? No, I think they would much prefer to see a more rigid, a more defensive performance. And I don't personally feel that Brendan Rodgers is capable of doing that. You really look at his time as a manager. He's never shown that he has that capability. Maybe the odd game here or there. But no, for me, I think it's time that Leicester part ways with Brendan Rodgers. Sean Dyche is the man. I understand why certain fans wouldn't want that, and I fully get that. But I do think if Sean Dyche came in, he would sort you out defensively. You've got that quality going forward. Be really, really simple football, but playing the likes of Maddison and in particular Jamie Vardy on the counter-attack. Players like Patson Daka, Harvey Barnes, they might be able to come in, play out wide, drift in, score some goals, and just be able to, under a Sean Dyche, Leicester City could go on a number of games of, picking up 0-0s or 1-0 victories and picking up points, whether it's draws or 1-0 victories on the road and here and there. And that, I think, would be a brilliant starting block for Leicester City, because right now they're conceding 3-4 goals per game. There's only one way you're going if you're doing that, and that's down to the Championship. And I don't want to see Leicester City getting relegated. But before I end this video, I'm going to look at the next 5 games. They are at home to Forest, which on paper looks like it could be a winnable game. It's under the lights. It's going to be a Monday night game, 8 o'clock. So under the lights, should be a really, really good atmosphere. I don't think Nottingham Forest have started the season anywhere near what a lot of people I think were expecting, especially all these signings coming in. So I think that Leicester City would be capable of certainly picking up a point in that game, but should be aiming for all 3. Same in the next game away at Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth have they've improved since the departure of Scott Parker and since the 9-0 mauling against us, but still they are, It's a debate to see whether they really are Premier League quality. So I think Leicester City going away to Bournemouth. So the next 2 games, I think Leicester should be targeting 6 points. At home to Palace, midday kickoff. I think at the very least you could target a draw in that game. I like Palace. I think Vieira is doing a very, very good job. But you never know what you're going to get from Palace. They're a bit hit and miss. So I think you could certainly target a point in that game. Home to Leeds United and then away at Wolves. I think both of those games are winnable. So actually, over the next 5 games for Leicester, I certainly think they should be out of 15 points available. They should be targeting at least 9, maybe 10 points. And I think that would just sort of skyrocket Leicester really through the league table, and then things will start to feel a lot better. So maybe you could look at that and go, some of those games are quite winnable on paper. Maybe we should stick with Brendan Rodgers for those games. But personally, I think now's the time, the international break, part ways with Brendan Rodgers, bring in a Sean Dyche, and then those next 5 games, I think you could get 10, maybe 11 points from those games under new leadership in Sean Dyche. So that's my opinion. Look, Brendan Rodgers, we all know he's a very, very talented manager. He's a talented coach, but Leicester are in a dark place at this moment in time. And what they need is to keep things simple, to be pragmatic, and to be able to have the mentality that actually, we can just dig out a 0-0 draw here, or grind out a 1-0 victory. But I don't think that Brendan Rodgers is capable of doing that. And I also don't think he really wants to do that. I know that sounds a little bit silly, but he wants that beautiful tiki-taka football. Leicester right now, that they're not capable of doing it. So I think the best option is to part ways with him, bring in Sean Dyche, more pragmatism. Defensively, I think Leicester will improve massively throughout the season. They won't be conceding every single corner kick or from every single corner kick or free kick in the game, which will make a huge difference to them. And they'll be able to sit back and hit teams on the counter-attack a little bit more. And that for me is where Leicester City need to go. Really bring in Sean Dyche, part ways with Brendan Rodgers, get back to basics, and I think we'll see Leicester City certainly safe and probably end up back into mid-table, and then next season they can go again. But anyway, guys, that was my opinion on the situation at Leicester City right now. And most importantly, I want to know your thoughts on this as Leicester fans and just as football fans in general. What do you think of this? Do you think that Leicester should stick with Brendan Rodgers, or do you think actually it's the international break now? Now is the time to part ways, bring in someone else, get them settled in. They've got 2 weeks to work with the majority of that squad. So, or at least some members of that squad. So, what do you think, guys? Keep Brendan Rodgers, get rid of him. If you want to keep him, let me know why. If you want to get rid of him, who are you bringing in? For me, it's Sean Dyche. You might fully disagree with that. That's absolutely fine. Just let me know who you would want to be the new manager of Leicester City. So anyway, guys, that was this video. I really, really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, certainly give us a like, subscribe, comment down below, and I'll see you guys very, 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 very soon. So thank you so much for watching.